Now, the recent delays at Heathrow come at difficult times for the government, with the Olympics fast approaching and summer allegedly on its way. Today, MPs have been hearing from the Minister and civil servant in charge of border controls, as well as the head of the BAA.
I have to speak up on behalf of passengers, and passengers are frustrated when they stand in long queues and see a large number of gates which aren't being manned. So the point is not necessarily to argue for more staff, it is to argue, though, for the right number of desks being manned at the right time of day.
Immigration Minister Damien Green insists things will get better.
On Friday, Border Force was told that 2,500 people would be arriving at peak time on Monday morning at Terminal 5. The actual number, I've just checked, between 6 and 9, the peak time was 7,500, was 3 times the amount. So we're building this control room, the central hub of which should be in operation within the next fortnight. And it's not just a question of assembling all the people in the same place. We want that to have all the immediate feed, so that as soon as an airline knows something, then Border Force can know it as well, so that it will make the staffing more flexible.
The unions are claiming that the Home Office is drafting in a team from all over the country to fill in the gaps at the taxpayers' expense.
We think it's just paper on all the cracks. What the Minister's done is bring in a mobile team of 80 people, deployed from elsewhere in the country, being flown in at great expense.
Flown in?
Flown in from
where?
other areas of the country, places like Manchester, Belfast. We've heard reports, and people being flown in on shifts, so they're not even completing a full shift at Heathrow. So that is costing the taxpayer an inordinate amount of money.
Here with me is Clive Jacobs, chairman of Travel Weekly Group and one of the leading figures in the UK aviation industry. Clive, thanks very much indeed for joining us. First of all, you're the signatory of a letter being published today. That's your starting salvo, if you like, of pressure on the government. What are you looking for? And do you think the argument we've been seeing just now in those comments is framed correctly?
Well, there are many arguments. There are arguments about airport infrastructure. There are arguments about border control. There are arguments about visas. There are just many arguments, and what we intend to do is talk to the Prime Minister and the Chancellor, because after all, they are complaining that bosses aren't working hard enough, and we intend to talk to them about how we can bring some economic growth to this country with a good aviation policy, with a good policy on visas.
What's the headline that you're looking for? Because there have been plenty of people in and out of Downing Street over the last months and years talking about just this subject, growth particularly, but also aviation industry, particularly runways, expansion of airports. What's your headline concern at the moment?
Well, we have numerous concerns, but we come as not just industry people, we have people from outside the industry. If we can encourage more people to come to the UK, then we will get more growth, we will get more spending. A simple fact, 5 times more Chinese people take holidays in Germany and France than in the UK because of the complexity, the cost of getting visas. So what we want to do is we want to sit down and talk about how we can get more people into this country and how we can have a sustainable aviation policy that can take us into the future.
You're talking about tourism principally, I presume.
We're talking about tourism, both inbound and outbound, because both affect our economy.
OK, so to lift numbers coming into London to spend their money from abroad and boost the economy, what do we need? An extra runway? More airlines using London as one of their destinations? How does that work?
Well, we certainly need more airport infrastructure, whether it's an extra runway at Heathrow, which for some people...
Well, Heathrow, we're told, is full.
Heathrow is full, but we could ease Heathrow up by having mixed takeoff and landing on the runways. You know, there are so many things that could be done. The problem is there's inaction by this government, indecisive. It says that it wants a consultation, but it's already discounted a 3rd runway, which I find bizarre. How can you consult when you've already discounted something? What we need to do is grow our economy, and the way we will grow our economy is by having a very clear strategy on aviation infrastructure going forward.
Is there a nervousness on the part of the airports? I mean, Stansted invested £2 billion on a project to look at the feasibility of another runway, and then that was cancelled by this coalition, so no one's going to want to shell out another £2 billion to look at the feasibility of a runway. There's Boris Island has been mooted. Gatwick is considered currently too messy to be able to organise. I mean, have you got an idea where we might boost our aviation capacity?
Well, We need a world-class hub airport. Heathrow is clearly the obvious place to have that. And we need to talk about it.
But you're not going to get a third runway at Heathrow, not in this current climate,
Well,
surely.
not with a minister who lives under the flight path, which I find very odd.
And not with austerity measures biting left, right and centre. I mean, the idea has appeal, but it's extremely expensive. And any politician trying to battle for a third runway at Heathrow right now knows he's going to have a tough couple of months.
But isn't the issue here that politicians are worried about the next election and not what is right for our economy? We need growth. We're in recession. We need growth at the moment. We could grow quickly if we freed up capacity at airports, if we changed the visa system, if we joined Schengen. 24 European countries have one visa form with 3 pages. We have a visa form with 9 pages that nearly half the applicants don't bother with once they've started to try and fill it out. So we've got to encourage more tourism to this country. At the same time, we mustn't lose sight that we live on a wet, damp island and people want to travel abroad. So we need more airport capacity. And if something isn't done now, then in 20 years' time, our children and our children's children will suffer. We won't... Sorry.
Clive Jacobs, we're out of time. Thanks very much indeed for joining us this afternoon on Bolton & Co.
EU forces have carried out an airstrike on a Somali pirate base